Okay. So we're going to mix law of sines and law of cosines. I gave you guys the formulas for those. Now I'm going to say it. Every time you have one angle and the opposite side, you're going to use the law of sines. I know the rule is every time you have two angles of a triangle, you can find the third angle. Okay, now here, question 61. Have two angles. So for me to find the third angle, I'm going to go 180, right? The 180 is a whole triangle, minus 91 minus 61. So I minus these two angles, and I find out that the third angle is 28. So start with the whole triangle, which is 180 minus the two angles that you have. Boom, you have the third angle. And I'm asking to solve BC. Find the side BC, which is usually what we call side A, right? Side A is opposite of angle A. Side B is opposite from angle B. Side C is opposite from angle C. Because I see angle C and side C, I have one angle in the opposite side. I'm going to go straight forward, law of sines. So the way I'm going to solve this, I'm going to say A, which is the side I'm solving for, A over sine of 91 is equal to 28 over sine of 61. Let me multiply both sides by sine of 91. All right, so let me bring out a calculator. All right, let's see. So I have to go 28. Make sure you're in degrees. So let me change this to degrees. 28 times sine of 91, close parentheses, divided by sine of 61. There you go. So I have to round it to the nearest tenth, 32.0. All right, so I'm just going to go 32.0. Or 32, right? The 0.0 is optional in this case. Every time you have one angle on the opposite side, go straight for law of sines. Let's take a look at here. I can find angle B. I'm given two angles, so I'm going to start with 180, which is the whole triangle, minus 47 minus 62. So I'm going to find out that the third angle is 71. I have side C and angle C, and I'm asking to solve for side A, right? It says find BC. The side BC is what we call side A. So I'm just going to write A over sine of 47. It's equal to 29 over sine of 62. Let me multiply both sides by sine of 47. Okay, so let me grab my calculator out. $29 times sine of 47 divided by sine of 62. 24.02, and that's 24.0. Round it to one decimal place. Let's take a look at question number 63. I'm asking to solve for AC, which is what we usually call side B. The only angle that I have is 90.7, and I don't have the opposite side. So I cannot use the law of sines. In this case, I'm going to use the law of cosines because I have angle B. Remember from the law of cosines, remember our formulas, B squared, it's equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2 times A times C times cosine of B. So I'm going to have that B squared. I know this is A and this is C, right? Side A is opposite from angle A. Side C is opposite from angle C. So this is 27.9 squared plus 21.9 squared minus 2 times 27.9 times 21.9 times cosine of 90.7. It's a lot to type. More likely my calculator is not going to accept it all. So I'm just going to type this part. Then I'm going to press equal, and then I'll type in the rest. So I'm going to type this in two parts. Okay, so let's take a look at my calculator. So I'm just going to go 27.9 squared plus 21.9 squared. Then I said I was going to press equal. And then I'm going to continue typing it. So minus 2 times 27.9 times 21.9 times cosine of 90.7. So it's 1,272.9494. So it was 1,272.9494. To get b by itself, let me get the square root on each side. So let me grab my calculator out again. The square root of 1272.9494, 35.67. So I'm just going to call that 35.7. Okay, not that bad. Solving for sides is not bad, whether you use law of sines or law of cosines. So I'm asking to solve for side AB. That is this side, which is what we call side C. We have side A, side B, and angle C. So I'm going to use our formula of our law of cosine, where I have C squared is equal to 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 9 times 7 times cosine of 92. So I have to go 9 squared. Some of you might be like, do I have to type 9 squared or can I just type in 81? Same thing. 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 9 times 7. Oops. Times cosine of 92. So I get C squared. Let me come back to the work here. C squared is 134.9 3973. All right, so let me get the square root of that. So square root of 134.3973 rounded to one decimal place. So I see 11.59. So I'm going to call this 11.6. So far we were solving for a side using the law of sines or using the law of cosines. Not a big deal. Now let's talk about when we're solving for an angle. I see I have side B, side A, and angle B. Okay, so I have side B and angle B, so I'm gonna use the law of sines. I'm asking you to solve for for angle A. So let me write sine of A over 5 is equal to sine of 73 over 23. Let me multiply both sides by 5. So I have that sine of A so I had to go sine of 73, close parentheses, times 5 divided by 23 equals 0.2079. So sine of A is equal to 0.2079. Because I'm not done, I'm using 4 decimal places. So that means that A is sine inverse of 0.2079, which is so I have to go sine inverse of 0.2079, and this is equal to, let's see, 11.99, so that's 12. Okay, let's take a look at question number 66. I have angle A inside A, so I'm using the law of sines. I have side C, and I'm asking for angle C. So I'm just going to write sine of C over 17 is equal to sine of 78 over 22. Let me multiply both sides by 17. So for the sine, make sure you use your parentheses. So I have that sine of C. I'm just going to type this in. Sine of 78 times 17 divided by 22. So sine of 78, close parentheses, times 17 divided by 22. So 0.7558. 0.7558. So that means that angle C is the sine inverse of 0.7558, which is, let me see, let's work this out. Let's see, 49.09. So I'm going to call that 49.1 because the 9 pushes the 0. 49.1. Okay. Now let's take a look at number 67. Okay, the angle that I have is angle B, but I don't have side B. I have side C and side A. So I cannot use the law of sines because I have angle B, but I don't have the opposite side. So I have to use the law of cosine where I have angle C. So I remember that C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A times B times cosine of angle C. So I'm just going to type all that in. 18 squared plus 13 squared minus 2. I'm just going to type this whole thing in. So let's see. So I'm going to go 18 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times 18 times 13 times cosine of 117. So 705.4676. So 705.4676. So that means that C is the square root of that. Seven oh five point 4676. I'm not quite done yet. So 26.5606. So I was solving for B squared. It was A squared minus C squared and cosine of B. So I'm gonna find out that this side is 26.5606. Now I can use the law of sines because I have angle B and side B, and I'm solving for angle C. So I'm gonna say sine of C over 13. So sine of C over side C equals sine of 117 over 26.5606. Let me multiply both sides by 13. So sine of C equals sine of 117 times 13 divided by 26.5606. So I get 0.4361. Okay, so sine of C is equal to 43.61. So that means that C, it's equal to sine inverse of 0.4361, which is so sine inverse of 0.4361 4361. Had to run it to the nearest tenth, so it says 25.85. I'm gonna call that 25.9. Now here, I don't have an angle. So I'm gonna have to use the law of cosines. I'm asking you to solve for angle A. So the formula I'm gonna use is A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2 times B times C times cosine of angle A. I know this is side A, this is side B, and this is side C. Angle A is opposite from side A, angle B is opposite from side B, and angle C is opposite from side C. Because I'm asking you to solve for angle A, use the one with cosine of A. Let me play with my formula first. I'm gonna say that A squared minus B squared minus C squared is equal to negative 2 BC times cosine of A. If you notice, all I did was I moved the B squared and the C squared. I moved it to the left side. So let me divide both sides by negative 2BC. So I'm gonna say A squared minus B squared minus C squared over the negative 2BC is equal to cosine of A. Okay. I'm just going to type it in. I know A is 13. I know B is 16. I know C is 18. So I'm just going to go, what I'm going to type in, let me grab my calculator here. So let me just type the top of my fraction, A squared minus B squared minus C squared. So I'm just going to go 13 squared minus 16 squared minus 18 squared equal. So that's the top of my fraction. Boom, press equal. Divided by, now because I want the whole thing at the bottom to be kept together, so use parentheses. I know I had a negative 2 times B times C. So I'm gonna go negative 2, make sure you use this negative, times 16 times 18. So 0.7135. So 0.7135. Okay, so I'm good. I'm gonna say that angle A is the cosine inverse of 0.7135. Okay, so I almost done. Cosine inverse of 0.7135. All right, so 44.47. So I'm gonna round it to 44.5. That's what we did today.